Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Junior Adams, and I'd like to thank y'all for being here and giving me the opportunity to speak to you. As many of you know me, I drive a school bus, have for 24 years, so I've dealt with a lot of juveniles in the past. I'm certified in safety restraint training with juveniles, special needs, and adults through my other part-time job as a cab driver. I've dealt with a lot of crazy situations, and the fact that is, you never know what you're going to have to deal with. I'm also CPR and first aid certified. That's about all I know to tell you. I'm running for the office of jailer to keep moving forward. There's a lot of ideas I think we can use to move forward to increase the budget on the jailer or the jail and get it out of the red. Like I say, that's about all I got.
My name is Ron Gabbard, and I'm a candidate for jailer. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I'd like to thank the association for putting this together. 1999, I became the chief deputy of the jail over here before the new one was up, and I worked there for 12 years. In that time, but before that time, I'd put in satellite dishes, I put in glass, I've taught clogging, I've taught line dancing, I've done a little bit of everything. I've lived here for 44 years. All but 4 years. I was born in Ohio, and God seemed fit to transplant me here, and I was really happy about that. But I love this county. I've had many opportunities to leave, but I wanted to put my family here, and I wanted to raise my family, my children here. Some of the things that I learned when I started working at the jail is I've got a passion for people and to encourage them and to try to help them do better than what they are. Realize that God made them more than what they think they are. I've got several ideas that I think will propel us forward in the future. I'd like to expand the Class D program to include women. I'd like to get a SAT program started in the county, which will bring in extra income on top of that. Just so many things that hopefully we'll get into later. But the spending is a little bit out of control. As you well know, our county's in a bad situation, and I think the only way to get that under control is if we all work together. Our community and our people is our greatest asset, and by working together with the fiscal court and all of the elected officials, I believe that I can bring the jail back to where it should be. Thank you, and your vote and support will be greatly appreciated.
My name's Bill Dunn, the current jailer. I've been a jailer for the last 4 years. We've had a good time. We've had a lot of good inmates. All inmates from other counties, they say that we're a Christian-run jail. We like to keep it that way. And we believe in treating everybody fairly, everybody the same. There are no big guys, no little U's. We've had doctors, lawyers, policemen, just a little bit of everybody in jail for the last 4 years. They've not been one treated no different than the others. And before I got to be jailer, I was a mechanic for almost 30 years and dealt with everybody in the county about it. About everybody knows me, knows of me. I'd just like to ask everybody for their support. We'll help anybody any way we can. Thank you.
I now have a question that is directed at each of you for the office that you are seeking. It's the same question for each of you. And we're going to start with Junior Adams. And the question is, if elected to your desired office, what is the most important function of that office for moving Jackson County toward being a better place to live, work, and raise a family?
Well, hopefully I would, if elected as jailer, set an example for the younger generation. You know, everything starts as children. If you're a jailer and you set a good example, it it helps them to not cause crime and stuff later on in the future. And that helps them with education, gives them opportunity to maybe get out and get a better job and increase productivity in the community. Hope that answers what you asked.
First thing I'd like to do is increase the inmate population from the state. Figures show, it's just something I was dabbling with at home, 70 state inmates will bring in over $800,000 in revenue for the county. By doing that, we can make the jail self-sustainable, where we don't have to depend on a large budget from the county. That way, that funding can go somewhere else. Education is a key part. I agree with Mr. Adams on that. But I think that as a whole, we have to work as a community to get that done. And like I said earlier, we've all got to work together in this and just get us up to where we need to be. But I think by creating more money coming into the jail, getting it self-sustainable, then we'll be able to relax some of the issues that the county has struggling with right now with the money.
I'd like to be able to have more state inmates and less county, but what you get into when you get certain, you are allowed to hold a certain amount of state inmates, inmates altogether. When you get over that number, the Department of Corrections will come in and start taking your state inmates away from you, and they get who they want, not the ones that you want to give them. And I'd just like to have more room to put state inmates and maybe try to start a SAP program. We work with inmates all the time on substance abuse programs, talking to them. But just need more inmates, state inmates. They're hard to get right now. You can't hardly get them at all. Thank you.
Okay, again, this question is to each of you, and we're going to start with Johnny Peters. And the question is, what do you consider to be the two most important issues in Jackson County today?
I think the most issues be like for old people, take old people, look after children, try to show them stuff like that, teach them the way, do what we gotta do different.
Most definitely responding to calls and road patrol. Most definitely. Security for the communities, your home, and your family. I believe that's the number one thing in law enforcement right now.
Lou, two most important issues.
Well, I think the most important issue is jobs in this area. As you know, since Mid-South burnt, and I think the Bay systems have laid off and they've shut down for a while, it hurts this county real bad. And the second most important thing is jobs. Our people don't have anywhere to work. They have to travel. And it's been that way for a long time, but it's getting worse.
I think as far as what's the two most important issues for the people would be having a government that is accountable to the people, and also as far as, and I agree with Luke, as far as jobs, because this county definitely needs jobs.
As far as two most important things in the position, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on in the sheriff's department. It's very important. One of the hardest things I think right now needs to be focused is the crime and the drugs. Of course, drugs that took Jackson County over. I don't know how aware people are in here, but I can see it in my community where it wasn't before. And leadership. You've got to have somebody that can lead the sheriff's department, somebody that's got management abilities, knows how to disperse the money, where they go, and
collect your taxes and make sure everything's accounted for. You know. And most of all, gain the trust. You need to gain the trust.
They pretty much hit on it all. Jobs, like Blue and him said, that is one of the most important, because without jobs, crime rate goes up. And then him hit on the other than drugs. One of the biggest problems in our state and our county, people thinks it's unregulated drugs. But from what time I was in the police force and out and about people, prescription drugs is a big problem, you know, the misuse of prescription drugs. So drugs and jobs, to me, would be the most important thing to work at. Thank you.
In my view, the most important things is two of the most important things is to get our financial house in order so that we have a fiscal soundness to our entire government, local government. It's important in order for us to bring these jobs in that we have a county that it meets its obligation and does the right thing, a county that people really trust, where people trust their government. And then, of course, the other thing is for us to do whatever we can to address the drug problem and the other things that come with that, such as the thefts and the burglaries and those things. It all comes together, but it's the root cause of many of these problems is the drug problem. If we can address that, I think that we can bring the county back into a situation where it's much more positive.
Yeah, I'd go along with the job situation is the most, probably the most critical. But why don't we have companies coming here? Why don't we have all this industry? We've got main roads now into us and, you know, for easy access. But we have to get our own house in order first. And that means we have to get to where we're not running as a deficit. We're not doing things behind closed doors. We become transparent in everything that we do so the public can see. It brings everybody above board. Once everybody's above board, then other companies are going to trust us to do business and stuff with us here. Also, the drug industry here is really well. It's hard to combat that, and that's what the sheriff's department's doing. But there's two. You have the dealers, and then you also have the day users, which are the victims. We need to have something for both of them.
I agree with the rest of them on the jobs. I think, you know, we need to get jobs in our county, you know. And the other thing is the drug problem, you know, putting trust back in our elected officials. I really think that's what it needs to be, someone you can trust.
I have to go along with everybody else and say jobs and drugs, because, you know, there is no jobs in Jackson County, and drugs are a major problem. And I agree with Mr. Weaver. Trust is a major issue as well. We got to get the trust back with all the elected officials and work together as a team to deal with the drugs and teach the younger generation that that's not the way to go. You need to get out and find a job and help bring jobs and productivity back to the community.
I think fiscal and financial responsibility throughout the whole fiscal court system is probably the number one issue that our county faces. If that can be brought under control, then I think the jobs will follow after that. Jobs is probably the number 2 on the list. But once we get our house in order, then we can get the jobs coming in here, sending people out, recruit people to come in and put businesses up. But that's what I think is fiscal responsibility and jobs.
The biggest thing would probably be drugs, and then jobs too. We get all these inmates in, probably 95% of them is drug related. And the reason a lot of them is drug related, they don't have a job to make a living on, and they resort to selling drugs to make a living. That's what I hear more than anything being jailer. And I think the second thing would probably be the trust of all county officials, all elected officials.
Okay. This question is for the jailers. It is always stated that the detention center can never be self-sustaining. Do you believe this? How would you make the detention center self-sufficient? James?
Well, I'd like to start by making it self-sufficient by, as Mr. Dunn has already started, gardening. I'd like to increase the number of state inmates, maybe work on getting a different facility for the county inmates and opening up more space for just state inmates, because they're the ones that pay the bill. That being said, there's work release programs you could use to maybe bring in money for the county through different programs that I have a plan to work on in the future if we get elected. That's about it.
Ron?
Self-sustainability on the jail is going to be determined by bringing the budget down first. The budget's going to it's going to have a lot of fat trimmed off of it. We're going to have to increase the population of the state inmates that's being held. I've talked to several different jails around the county, around the state, and state inmates is not as hard to come by as one would have you to believe. But in order to do that, like I said earlier, 70 is going to produce about a little bit over $800,000 a year. Okay, I would like to explore the option of holding at least 70 state inmates, and then also explore the option with grants and maybe some more funding to expand the jail and hold upwards of maybe 120, 150 inmates. That way, that will bring our revenue up and make the jail more self-sustainable.
Our jail is not big enough to be self-sustainable. You can't hold enough inmates in it. Like I said before, if you get over a certain number, they start taking the state inmates away from the Department of Corrections and move them out. And we can offset that by, like I'm doing, raising gardens and just different things like that. But it's just, the jail is not big enough to be self-sustainable. And you can't build under a jail to bring in revenue.
These questions have been presented by the audience. This next question is asked of the jailer's office. Given the budget constraints, how will you stretch the taxpayers' dollars?
Well, I'd like to start stretching the dollars by cutting the cost on no unnecessary spending, buying local when we can, use what we have available here in the county versus going to the bigger places and maybe having things like excess food and stuff shipped in when we can purchase it here at a different price. Better training for the guards, so that they don't have to constantly be updated. Stuff like that, just basic stuff.
I think probably one of the best thing we can do right now is to trim the fat off the budget that the jail's allotted. Buying local for utilizing the food from the farmers markets, getting a better grip on the employment. There's a whole lot of part-time help right now that I'm not sure that could not be combined into several. One person could do several different things. And everybody's going to be scared, well, he's going to cut jobs and this, that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that they could be stuff, people could be moved around to be better utilized, and that way we'd readdress the issue of that. Also, I'd like to explore the opportunity later on about maybe starting a couple of greenhouses or something like that where we can have food all year long, not just depend on the seasonal garden, and just go from there and try and see if that works.
Bill?
We've got a bare minimum of workers right now, and it was reported we had 52 employees, which we've got 36. 2 of them is the state Department of Transportation reimburses the county for 2 of those employees. I don't know where the number 52 come up from, but we've got 24 full-time employees, 3 part-time, and 9 PRN. That's a total of 36. And as far as the greenhouse, we've got a greenhouse. We start our plants in for the gardens, and then you can't really. There's nowhere to buy local food at. You can't go down to the store and buy from a store. It's got to be a big place to where you can get a discount on it.
Okay, thank you. So, this question goes towards the office of jailer. Thefts and drug use are at an all-time high. Due to the county's financial situation, will we be able to house all the criminals if and when they are caught? Junior.
In a roundabout way, yeah. As time goes on, you can house them. It's rotation. And in order to perform rotation, you got to first give them counseling and help them through whatever they're dealing with. After their trial date, they're released. Maybe you've taught them a little something as far as not to go back to the same habits, and that will stop the repeat offenders. So yes, I believe eventually, as time goes on, you can house all prisoners at some point. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron?
Whether you can house all of the criminals, all the drug users and the thieves that's a lot of people. If you can catch them all, but I'm confident that we could hold whatever that law enforcement brings us. Rehabilitation starts at the jail by how an inmate is perceived when they first come in. There's some people you can help, and there's some people you can't help because they don't want help. They're in there because that's the only way they know. They're not looking to do any better. But getting them in, getting them processed, getting them in front of the judge, depending on the level of the crime, there's what their bond's going to be. They're going to be coming in and out. It's just that's a really big question. But in a nutshell, yes, I believe we could hold them.
Bill?
What was the question again?
Theft and drug use are at an all-time high. Due to the county's financial situation, will we be able to house all of the criminals if they are caught?
There's no way that you could house all of them at one time if they were caught at one time. But you'd have to have a big building. But, you can handle all, most of them it's caught, brought in. Well, you can house all of them that's brought in, but if all of them's brought in at one time, you couldn't. There's no way. But like I say, you need programs to help get them off drugs. And like I say before, the drugs goes right along with no jobs.
Okay, thank you. This question goes back to the office of jailer. Would you list 2 things that are in your plans if elected jailer to reduce spending?
Well, the first thing, like I said earlier, would be to buy local, work with farmers market, the local stores, see what you can do about getting discounts. The second thing would be to cut unnecessary costs, as travel time, use of company vehicles, stuff like that. Just leave them there at the shop till you need them. Just cut the cost.
two things to reduce spending, Ron.
In the current budget, it's listed as $6,000 a year to rent uniforms for the staff. First thing I would do is eliminate that, buy pants and shirts for the staff, and let them be responsible for taking care of that, washing them, cleaning them, as long as they're employed there. And unless something happens to those, like they get blood on them or spill something on them that ruins them, then they would be responsible for replacing those within a year's time. The second thing I would do is probably combine some of the different duties of the staff and maybe get rid of maybe a few positions or something like that. I'd have to look at it into a greater detail, but employment, the number of employees would have to greatly be looked at.
Bill?
Well, the first thing would be the uniforms. That was a bad decision to start off with, which we signed the contract and it will be up shortly, so that is gone. And maybe the second thing would be cut back on the food some. It's nobody drives a personal vehicle or a jail vehicle home. I don't drive one home, never have. They stay at the jail 24 hours a day until they're needed at the jail. Nobody drives them home. But I guess food and might cut back on it some and uniform.
Okay, thank you. This question goes to the Office of Jail. How many employees does our jail need? Junior?
Well, I think it needs to be run by the bare minimum, the result that you need to house the inmates correctly. I would say round the clock employees, probably 35 to 40 max.
Ron?
When the jail was built, the State Department of Corrections came down and done an assessment on a 110-bed facility. Rodney Ballard, which at that time was the head of the Department of Corrections, his estimate, or his office's estimate, gave a number of 32 people to run the jail 24 hours a day, full staffed. That was the amount that we was going to go with. Now that could vary, so many full-time, so many part-time, but I think a lot of it has been cut back because of the deficit on some like retirement, that they're trying to save on retirement, health benefits and things like that. But 32 people is what the state recommended. I would probably go with that to start out with.
Bill?
It takes 24 full-time employees, and then you've got to have part-time, and then you've got to have the PRNs to fill in when you've got a full-time employee out. So you're looking 33 or 4.
Okay, thank you.